Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Saturday, everybody. Today has been a bit of work, I guess you could say. In all honesty, this whole week has been a piece of work. So if you guys are out there struggling, let me be the first one to say, hey, listen, guys, I'm sorry about your struggles, but you're not alone. Hang in there. Keep moving forward. Things are going to get better. And we just got to, like I said, keep moving forward. Keep that head down. Keep pedaling. Keep running. Whatever it is that your thing is, keep doing it. Just keep going. All right? Just keep playing, guys. But here we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of sports today down south in the state of Florida, our Sunshine State. And I'll be the first one to tell you guys right now we are in a bit of a slump with everything. Between being in the offseason for some sports and then struggles going on for Florida teams and the other way around as we get ready to move into the NFL offseason as far as training camp goes, it's been very early to predict what is going on so far in the NFL as far as the teams and their training camp goes, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of updates with what's going on so far. Again, as we move closer and closer to the season, we'll start to see things fill out a lot more for Tampa Bay. Miami and Jacksonville do not have the problems as they have young quarterbacks at the helm who are two of the top 10 quarterbacks probably in the league right now, guys. So, as always, we will go ahead and dive into what's going on with Tampa Bay first. Again, they have the most drama, of course. Not having a starting QB1 is going to bring that drama to the table during the offseason. Of course, everybody wants to know how Tampa's going to look post-Tom Brady. And guys, let's just say this. We've had the good, the bad, and the ugly here in Tampa Bay over the last 3 seasons. Tom Brady was able to put together a Hall of Fame career while he was here in the 3 seasons that he played. So, in order to watch what Tampa Bay is going to do moving forward without Tom, we have to take in consideration first and foremost that his imprint on the team hasn't gone anywhere. We still believe in ourselves. We still believe we have a great and talented roster. Now we just need to have it drawn out. Last year, we were plagued by a predictable offense, guys. That is the reason why our offensive coordinator was fired and let go. Do I agree with the decision? Somewhat. I do think that he is, quote-unquote, responsible. However, I also believe that the team did not play to its full potential. Tom was having off-the-field issues, dealing with a divorce. I understand that a female's feelings are important, but let's just call a spade a spade. That was the worst possible timing for him to be going through a divorce, especially after just having a squad that was very injured the year before and still made it all the way into a deep playoff run, almost making it to a Super Bowl, guys. You guys remember how that game ended with Cooper Kupp ultimately sealing the Buccaneers' fate, helping the Rams copy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yes, I'm going to hold on to that because don't forget, Tampa did it first, guys. So with that being said, we have to have an open mind when dealing with what's moving forward for Tampa Bay. I just want to get that out there for all of those people who do not follow Tampa closely. It is a very weird situation to be in. We had our quarterback drafted before Tom Brady retired, so it's not quite the same thing as Tom Brady leaving New England. For those who remember what happened there, he lost to the Titans in the semifinal round of the AFC playoffs 4 years ago off of a pick six by a then Titan turned Buccaneer who played with Tom last year. And with that being said, it's a very awkward situation for Tampa to be in because our draft pick, Kyle Trask, who is a former Florida Gator and did phenomenal as a Gator, may I add, has not really rounded into form. And because of that, Tampa Bay sought out the help of one Baker Mayfield, a guy who has been to the playoffs with the Browns, had an amazing stint with the Rams last year. He didn't, or I should say couldn't have saved their season, unfortunately, due to the fact that how far down in the dumps that they were. That team was a team dealing with a lot of injuries, much like Tampa Bay was after their Super Bowl win. So that leads me into my first bit of information, which is that Baker Mayfield seems to be emerging early and clearly as a favorite for QB1. Okay, as I mentioned before, Kyle Trask has had his struggles since joining the NFL. He was a Gator and performed extremely well at the University of Florida. However, it has not translated here into the NFL yet, and I really wonder if it's ever going to. And this is just one of those weird things that you take a quarterback so early on in the NFL draft, you expect him to be more than what he has been. He has been completely outshone by people that were drafted in the same draft class and post that same draft class. Just to give you a few names: Tua Tagovailoa, who is the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and Trevor Lawrence have both completely won the starting jobs at their respective football teams, the Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the point that I'm making behind this is that when you get drafted, especially in the first or second round, you expect to have the future open to that player, right? It doesn't really matter what player. You look at the Giants, for instance, they had Saquon Barkley just to get out of the state of Florida. You had the LA Chargers, I believe they are now. I don't want to say, I'm so used to saying San Diego, guys, so stay with me. But the Chargers have their quarterback in Justin Herbert, who was an absolutely phenomenal quarterback at Oregon during his time in college football. And unfortunately, our pick, Kyle Trask, has not been meeting the same expectations. So that's the point behind this competition being so important, because you would think after time was being spent underneath such a great quarterback such as Tom Brady that Kyle Trask may have put something together. Unfortunately, he has not been able to. So early on right now, we see Baker Mayfield emerging as the clear favorite for the QB1 position. And that's something that's been noted not just by the coaches, but also by the players too. Chris Godwin was the most recent player to mention Baker Mayfield in the news. He said that he likes what he's seeing from the guy, and he is probably already developing chemistry, especially under new offensive coordinator Dave Canellis, who had come over from Seattle and was able to get a I forget what his name was, but you guys know who I'm talking about, the quarterback for Seattle last year, who played extremely well after people thought that he was a dead man walking. And that's an example of what we want to happen here with Baker Mayfield. So we're looking forward to seeing that happen. Quick pause on the NFL side of things, guys. For anybody who is watching the UFC Fight Night, which I was going to mention a little bit later in the show, Tom Aspinall was able to put an end to this fight early in the first round by TKO and stoppage. It was a clean right hand right down the pipe, connected with the chin on Marcin Tybura. Unfortunately, that is going to put an end to the UFC Fight Night. So if you were watching that, congratulations in your return, Tom Aspinall. We had all the faith in the world in you. It's so great to see him return back from his injury that he sustained, I believe it was late last year. So congratulations to him. Now, if I may get back to the NFL side of things, and again, that was just a short mention for those who are watching it. I believe Baker Mayfield will be the starter. I said that before. I believe he gives us the best shot at winning, and he also has the best shot to win the starting job because of his history, his record, what he's been able to do. Yes, the interceptions have plagued him in the past, but what, gunslinger doesn't get plagued by interceptions? The only one that I can think of is Aaron Rodgers. Even Tom Brady had his issues with interceptions, even though he had stints where he would be absolutely phenomenal with not turning the ball over. I believe in Baker Mayfield. I've said this before. I've said it many times, so I'm not going to repeat that synopsis. But you guys already know what he brings to the table. So let's just put the ball in his hands and hope that we have a clear starter and a winner for our starter as far as Baker Mayfield is concerned. Now, in running back news, everybody knows that Rachaad White is the running back one here in Tampa, Florida. He absolutely took the starting position away from Leonard Fournette last year, and it's something that we look forward to seeing him build upon, especially since he has so much skill out of the backfield. He definitely reminds me of a young Marshall Faulk, and I really hope that comparison moves forward with him and he continues to expand on that skill set that he has. Great size, great vision, great cuts, protects the football pretty well. All you want from a running back, so let's just hope, like I said, that he can continue to perform at the rate that he was performing last year, and I look forward to seeing what he brings to the table for us this year. Lastly, guys, because Tampa Bay is my favorite team in the NFL, guys, I would put this part of the segment, but it counts towards the Jaguars and the Fins too. So for those of you who are missing pro football, guys, 50 days left. Okay, that is the good news. Regardless of who your team is or what you expect your team to do, whether your team made the playoffs last year or did not, guys, football is right around the corner. We are less than 2 months away, guys. 50 days until NFL kickoff. I myself am stoked. I cannot wait. Life is not the same when there is no NFL football. So for all of you who feel that way, you're not alone. Look forward to the season starting very soon, under 2 months away, like I said. Shortly after the kids get back to school, we'll be talking about what's going on in the active world of football versus the off season, all right? But that also means that Tampa Bay needs to get their act together so that way they can have a squad, or at least on paper look like a squad, reminiscent of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, so that's going to lead us right into Jacksonville. Duval, stand up. It is your time. Unfortunately, I have bad news to start things off with, okay? Excuse me, my apologies. The bad news is that defensive back Chris Claybrooks has been arrested again, okay, for domestic violence. Now, the details are not 100% clear as there's an ongoing investigation as to what has been taking place there, but the terminology again means and insisted that this has happened before. I don't have knowledge on the prior arrest, but I can tell you this. When a player is getting in trouble with the law such as this, and this consistently, again, using the word again, that's a problem for any organization, okay? I don't really care what sport you play. You can't have a guy just losing his fucking mind off the field. Excuse my French there, guys, but you can't have a guy losing his mind off the field. And domestic violence, all right, so this is going to be the first ram of the show, guys. You're an NFL football player. All right. I don't believe in kicking a man while he's down, but I do believe in holding somebody accountable. I've been held accountable for my mistakes and transgressions in the past, so I would expect that everybody else is as well. And this is a grown man who is no different from anybody else, and we are going to hold him accountable here on this show, okay? Just as we would anywhere else. When AB did what he did a couple years back, all right, we held him accountable, or last year I should say, not a couple years back, but, it was essentially just last year. But we held him accountable. It's inexcusable. It's absolutely ridiculous. And even still now, after him going after Tom Brady is ridiculous. This is another example of that. Guys, you have to remember that playing football as a job is a blessing. All right, guys? I don't really care what your background is. There are people out there suffering so much in life, and they would kill to have the opportunity to play the game of football as their job. All right, let's not forget it's a game. Okay, guys? It's no different than esports. It's no different than martial arts. It is different from martial arts, so how dare I say that. But it's no different from any other sport out there that requires a team aspect in the work to be put in, especially during an off season. And if you're out there fighting people, specifically your significant other or your partner, whatever you want to call it, guys, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to hold him accountable, and we're going to say this. It's very simple. You got to clean your act and your life up if you're going to play football. You get paid millions of dollars to do the thing that you quote-unquote love. If you don't love it that much, don't do it. But don't give your team a bad look by doing stuff like that. All right, it's just completely inexcusable. Domestic violence, it should not be accepted in any form or fashion throughout the life that we live as human beings. And also, I don't believe in domestic violence specifically either. If you have a problem with your spouse, okay, there are other ways to handle it than putting your hands on that person. I've made that mistake myself in the past, not with my significant other, but in life, of course, everybody has experiences, whether they turn physical or not. But let me tell you this. I don't believe especially in putting your hands on females as a male. Something that I was raised up on, and it's something that I want to speak emphatically about here on this show. So we've seen this before. I didn't have a show when these things happened before, but since it's happening here in my state with a team that I respect and care for, I'm going to mention it. So Chris Claybrooks, sir, please get your act together. And just, you better pray that this team has leniency with you, because let's just be honest, that's just not acceptable, and it shouldn't be acceptable no matter what. I've harped on that enough. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bit of information coming out of the Jaguars camp, which actually there is something interesting, but it's not about Kevin Maxson, okay? So I'm going to address this really quickly too, because this is something that I see happen a lot. And since I have a media outlet to be able to talk about this, I also want to bring attention and light to this situation, okay? Jaguars are being bombarded in a media fashion, as in if you Google the Jacksonville Jaguars, the leading story that you're going to see, aside from Chris Claybrooks being arrested, okay, is that assistant coach Kevin Maxson comes out as gay. Here's the reason why I want to talk about this, guys. I was raised to love everybody, okay? I have a line in the sand. I imagine a lot of other people have lines in the sand as well. Once you cross that line, I'm still going to have respect for you, but I don't want to associate with you. I don't want to be in arm's length of you. I want you to be as far away from me as possible, because I want to avoid confrontation, if at all possible, at every account, okay? When somebody comes out as gay, there should be no reason why, first off, the media blows it up, 2, that he gets hate mail or receives backlash for it, and 3, gets judged for it. All right, guys, whatever you want to do, you should be allowed to do. Every man and woman has the right to live the life the way they want to and die according to how they want to. That doesn't mean you're going to, but all you have is your life, okay? You can't let other people turn your life upside down because of these things. And I hope he's keeping his head up, because I can only imagine the backlash he's receiving. I've seen some of it on Twitter. Of course, people are always going to stress about situations when it comes down to how people perceive themselves in their lives. I am not one of those people. I believe he is a brave man for coming out. I believe that he deserves every ounce of respect that we can give him and allow him to live his life. On the flip side of it, I'll also say this. It shouldn't matter, guys. He's a coach, okay? So let's treat him like a coach. It shouldn't matter whether you're male, female. It shouldn't matter whether you like the same sex or you don't. That is between you and God, my friend. So to Kevin, I say, congratulations on that. However, to the media outlets, I say, please stop blowing this up out of proportion, because it truly does not matter in the scope of things. So, good luck moving forward with your job and your life, Kevin, and may you be a blessed man. And to everybody else, chill out and let the man be himself, okay? Because if he wasn't being himself, we'd be complaining that he's fake, and it's not fair to do that. All right, guys? That's all I have to say about that, especially with other issues like that becoming more prominent here in the world, again, because of the media. So I say, just, take it with a grain of salt, guys. Let him be who he is. Now that I've said that part and I've gotten out the way, here's the good news, all right, for the Jacksonville Jaguars fans, all right? Evan Ingram has finally received his contract extension, all right? For those of you who do not know, Evan came out last year and performed very well for the Jacksonville Jaguars, becoming a extremely reliable target for Trevor Lawrence, and I look forward to seeing him continue to be such a reliable offensive tool for him, which he was able to utilize effectively last year. And I look forward to seeing how they center this offense around their receiving core. The Jaguars have a pretty good receiving core right now after they spent a ton of money. I believe it was $175 million in the offseason last year, bringing offensive weapons to this team. Effectively, Evan Ingram was franchise tagged. Excuse my French, guys. I'm not speaking very well today, but he was franchise tagged last year. When a player gets franchise tagged, the next thing they're going to look for is a contract, because a franchise tag is essentially just slapping a number on them and saying, hey, look, there's not much you can do about this, okay? With that being said, he did receive it, and it comes in the form of a 3-year extension worth $41.25 million with $24 million guaranteed. So, guys, that's about 64% guaranteed money right there. So that's something for him to be able to write home about. Good for that. That's closer to 70% now that I think about it. But the point being, he got paid. So, good job, Jags, for locking up Evan Ingram, a truly talented tight end that hasn't even reached his peak yet. I believe he can be one of the top 3 tight ends in the league if utilized properly, and as long as he can continue to block properly for that offensive line, I can also see him being a 3-down tight end. He's not going to be a Gronkowski, all right? We know that much. But he can still be the best version of himself for a team that's already loaded and only getting better as the continuity builds. So congratulations, Jaguars, are getting your guy signed. Let's go ahead and wrap things up with the Fins. Of course, I took a little bit longer time with the Jags and the Buccaneers just due to the fact that obviously the Fins have probably, and I keep going back and forth between the Jags and the Fins depending on what's happening, but with this recent arrest of the defensive back in Jacksonville, who is most definitely going to be facing some type of disciplinary action, it's looking like the Fins more and more are becoming the best team in the state of Florida, which I already preemptively believed to begin with, especially if they're able to keep Tua safe and healthy. And yes, every time I talk about Miami, I'm going to bring that up, because it's going to be very hard for you to be successful as a team without a captain. Your captain is Tua, all right? So, what's going on in Miami, you ask? Well, they're still in the running for the Dalvin Cook deal. Let's just call a spade a spade. It hasn't got done yet because they're not offering enough money. Do they have the money? Most likely. Can they restructure contracts? Of course. Have they done any of those things? No, not really. Dalvin wants what Dalvin wants, but let's not act like Miami doesn't need him. They do. They could use a powerful running back one right now, as they do not have one. And if you also take into consideration the conference that they're playing in, the AFC East, obviously Mikey said in the chat, go Patriots. That's a perfect example of what I mean, all right? The Patriots are probably only going to get better, especially after they've acquired so much help in the offseason. The last 2 offseasons, I should say. Obviously, they did not play as well as we thought they would have last year, but that's okay. That's what a bounce back season is for. Mac Jones is in for due for a good season in a division that's completely loaded. When you look at the Jets acquiring Aaron Rodgers and having probably the best defense out of all 4 teams in the AFC East, you look at the Buffalo Bills, who are the most explosive team, in my opinion, on that, just due to the fact that obviously with Tua being injured as much as he was last year, a lot of the explosiveness was taken out of the sails of Miami, especially during his injury. It was scary. So it's one of those things where you say, hey, can they return to that now that Tua's coming back? I think that they can, but the proof will be in the pudding once the season starts. So between Miami, Buffalo, the Patriots, and of course the Jets, this is the most loaded team in the entire NFL, or the most loaded division in the entire NFL right now, and I look forward to seeing who comes out on top. It could come down to a couple of field goal games. Mark my word, guys, that if it does, you heard it first here on Palm Tree Sports, and I don't know who's going to be the clear best team. I'm being 100% honest with you. Things have shaken up a lot over the last 2 off seasons for the AFC East, so I look forward to seeing who comes out on top, but again, there's no clear number 1 team. I just have to be honest and say that there. As far as what's going on in the PUP list, because there was a player from Miami added to the physically unable to perform list. That would come in the form of cornerback Nick Needham. For those of you who watch Miami closely play during week 6 of last year, he suffered a ruptured Achilles, and that forced him out of the rest of the season and to have to focus on rebuilding and, fixing, rehoning his skills again, because when an Achilles goes out, guys, just look at some of the other players in the past who have lost their Achilles in the middle of a season, what was going on. A couple of players that come to mind specifically actually in the NBA would be Klay Thompson and Kobe Bryant, all right? Both of those players were able to have successful returns back to the NBA, but they were not quite the same person. More so on the side of Klay Thompson. Of course, the Black Mamba is the Black Mamba, so you knew he was going to will himself back, and he even hit those 2 clutch free throws after his ACL, or not ACL, but his Achilles went out. So here's hoping that Nick can make a full recovery. Of course, like I said, being put on the physically unable to perform list is not something to be too concerned about, but it is something to pay attention to, especially after you rupture an Achilles. That is one of the more delicate injuries you would see in the world of sports. So again, here's hoping that Nick is able to make it back to the season before the start of the season. If not, no rush, guys. Take your time. If there's anything we learned from Tua, it's that take all the time you need. It's better to be safe than sorry. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into our first break. When we get back, we're going to go ahead and talk about what's going on in the MLB. The NBA, there's a little bit of information there in the NBA. A little bit coming out of the NCAA, and then we'll talk about what's going on within the UFC fight card, which just ended, and what to expect tonight on AEW's Collision card. For those who are looking for something to watch, we'll get into all of that after this first break. Again, my name is Corey Pujols. I am your host for Palm Tree Sports, which is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
And right on cue, as we were talking about the AFC East, had to go ahead and get that little Buffalo Huddle drop in there for those of you who look out for Buffalo. Obviously, North New York, got to stand up, put them on the map right now. They have a wonderful squad up there. But again, as we were saying, the East is loaded, man. So we look forward to seeing what's going on there. As we transition, though, from the NFL over to the other sports that are going on, obviously I'll always give you guys a sit rep on what is going on from these other branches of sports, if you will. But unfortunately, due to the fact that there's not a lot going on, some of these segments may be a little bit shorter, but that's okay because at the end of the show, we actually have a sponsor message that I can't wait to talk to you guys about. So I can't wait to share that, but again, that'll be at the end of the show. Right now, we're going to roll into the MLB side of things, which is clearly the saddest side of things right now for us as sports fans here in the state of Florida. Guys, the Rays are playing terribly right now, okay? And they are a far cry from the team that they were when they opened this season. For those of you who remember how the Rays started the season, I believe it was 22 straight wins without a loss. And since then, they have cooled off dramatically. It's almost like the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs came back and only hit Tampa Bay, all right? I'm not sure I've seen a slump this bad in a sports team maybe ever before. And I got to be 100% honest with you. It's different when your team starts out bad and just continues to play bad throughout the season. We've seen that in Tampa Bay many times over. The Rays were unequivocally the best team in the MLB 2 weeks before the break, before the All-Star break. And it's like, I don't know, a week and a half before the All-Star break, the Rays started to become human. And it's all of a sudden, it's like kryptonite is just being waved in our face every time we engage with another team. none more recently depressing than the series against Texas, if I may be so bold. Texas isn't exactly playing the best baseball, so for the Rays to perform the way they did and the way they have been is just absolutely crushing, to say the least. And it has continued on moving into the Orioles segment, which is obviously, or not Orioles segment, Orioles series. For those of you who have not been watching the Rays play any baseball recently, let's just say that the Orioles is the last team we need to play against right now, especially coming off of the series against the Braves, who is the other best team in the league right now. The Rays sitting at 61-40 right now. The Orioles sitting at 59-38. You would have thought that it would have been at least competitive. It has not been. Okay, it has not been. The Rays have been able to win just one game of this 4-game series, with the final game coming tomorrow. We'll get into that in a second. But more importantly, they're actually losing to the Orioles 5-3 right now at the bottom of the 8th. The last time I saw the score, it was 5-0, bottom of the 6th. Excuse me, guys, my apologies. That comes with a lot of frustration due to the fact that the Orioles always play the Rays hard. All right? Always have. It's a team we struggle against in the regular season and sometimes in the playoffs if we see them. Here's the problem, okay? We still have a lot of people injured. Every time we get a player back, 2 more go on injured reserve, okay? Or on a 10-day or 15-day injury leave due to whatever it is that they're experiencing. Guys, this is just absolutely as frustrating as it gets. The difference being, when we watched Tampa Bay go through this, even when we watched the Bolts go through this, we saw Tampa Bay make the playoffs 3 straight years. We had the GOAT. You look at the hockey side of things, where we had the Bolts, who were 3-time appearances. Jesus Christ, I can't English today, guys. Hang with me, though. 3 appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals, bringing 2 of those home, okay? This is different. The Rays have never won a World Series before, and they're 0-2. It's not like we haven't been and we just never had the opportunity like Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, or the Bolts had. We just suck, dude. We just really suck, and as you guys can tell, I'm a little frustrated here. I'm a little flabbergasted at what's going on, and that's because I have a lot of faith in this team. I've grown up watching the Rays, okay? I'm only 29 years old, guys, all right? So you could do the math. I've pretty much been watching the Rays since they were created, okay? And it's really frustrating. Okay, because again, the Bolts, they've been able to do it. The Heat, they were able to do it. The Magic haven't really been able to do it, but I'm not a huge Magic fan, so that doesn't bother me as much. And Tampa Bay are 2-0 in the Super Bowl, and they've won 2 of the greatest Super Bowls ever played. All right, and it's fun to be a fan of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's fun to be a fan of the Bolts. It's just really hard when you're a fan of the Rays, but you know that when push comes to shove, this team looks like they're going to start folding, okay? This is more of a frustration update than it is of a gaming update, but with that being said, let's look into what's going on. The 4th and final game of this series against the Orioles is going to be tomorrow at 1:40 p.m., so if you're looking for something to watch Sunday afternoon around lunchtime, there's your go-to. I don't believe that the game is going to be competitive. Today's game is getting a little bit more competitive. Update being 5-4 now, still bottom of the 8th. Here's hoping the Rays can somehow pull this out, but let's just be honest, guys. It's getting hard. It's getting really, really hard. We're never going to lose faith, but it's getting hard, all right? The next series is going to be a 2-game series against the Marlins. The Marlins, they've been kind of resurging a little bit, so I don't know if this is something that I want to dive deeply into and look at with the stethoscope, if you guys will, or, you know, whatever scope you want to put it under, but we're going to need something, all right? We need some type of confidence booster. We need some type of momentum swing. For those of you who watch, you know, different sports, you guys know momentum is everything, okay? College football is basically momentum in human form, okay? For those of you who watch college football, you know what I'm talking about. So Rays, here's hoping you guys can get it together, whether it's during this Orioles series or after. Of course, you know, they can try to turn it around, get a win here tonight, and win again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Arozarena has just singled to tie the game. There's a positive update, guys. So now it's tied 5-5, bottom of the 8th. Maybe the Rays are waking up, huh? I know Arozarena was 0-12 at bat before that. So good job, Arozarena. Get your head out of your behind, all right, and start playing the way we know you can, because before the break, we were talking about MVP. All right. Now, I don't know, Poppy. So let's get it together. All right. We believe in you, Randy. We believe in you, Rays. But you gotta figure it out. And for reference, Okay, how that looks out on the team has been 3-5 over the last 8 games. Okay, and this is post the break. All right, so something's got to change. Something's got to give. And I look forward to seeing that something changing, that something giving, starting now. Matter of fact, starting now. Like I said, it's hard to have faith, but we're never going to lose faith down here in Tampa Bay. All right, so go Rays. We believe in you guys. As I said, the next series is going to be a 2-game series against the Marlins. We will see how that game goes. Like I said, teams been battling, my apologies, a lot of confidence issues. I'm pretty sure you guys can see that, especially watching the not the last game, but 2 games ago against the Orioles. You could see guys just getting knocked out and just battered down at the plate. All right, guys. So here's hoping that this confidence swings over to the positive side of things. Go Rays, go. And I know that was a little bit underwhelming of a segment, but guys, let's just be honest, it wasn't going to be as good as what I have to tell you guys next, which is actually in the field of basketball. So let's go ahead and cross things over to the NBA. We're going to talk about the Magic first this time, because that's where the positive news comes out, as the Magic were able to sign their free agent Admiral Schofield to a 2-way contract. This is huge, okay? Simply because he put on a lot of work for them last season, and they're going to need it. This team is much younger now than it's ever been before. There have been a lot of moving pieces in and out of Orlando, and they are going to need the help. So, congratulations, Magic, on signing Admiral, or re-signing, I should say, Admiral Schofield. And yes, guys, his name is Admiral Schofield, which I believe is a head nod to a former British soldier from World War I, if my knowledge is correct. Guys, I study World War history, so World Wars 1 and 2 are my 2 favorites, specifically World War II. Schofield is actually a British name, if I remember correctly. So, guys, don't be surprised. It would be really cool if I could... I'll Google that, actually. After the show is over, I will Google that and hopefully get that information back to you guys next week. But that's actually a very cool interaction for those of you who study any kind of history. Very, very cool. And a great name, may I add. Great name. Admiral Schofield. How about that? It's pretty cool, isn't it? So, congratulations again on the Orlando Magic for getting their guy on a 2-way contract. They will need him. And so I look forward to seeing what he's able to do for Orlando. For the Heat, okay, they're not in such bright a mood, if you will. They've been in the running to pick up Damian Lillard for about 3 weeks now, all right, heading towards a month. And we thought that this deal would have got finished 2 weeks ago. It has not been, and you could say that Miami is getting frustrated, quote unquote, as the dragging out of this trade with the Trailblazers has been stressing and stressful to the Miami Heat, a team who was just in the NBA Finals against the Denver Nuggets and lost 4-1. They are going to need all the help that they can get just to make it back, as the East will be tighter next season, especially with the continuity between some of the bigger teams. I look forward to Damian Lillard becoming a Heat player. I would even love to get one of his jerseys if and when he becomes, but let's just be honest, it's taking absolutely too long for them to come to a reasonable accommodation for Damian Lillard via the Trailblazers. I look forward to seeing this deal get done, hopefully before the end of the month. If not, it's possible that Miami could drop out of the interest and perhaps chase another player, although I've seen them put a lot of work into this. It would be very frustrating for Damian Lillard not to end up as a Heat player and on the Heat roster for next season. That's what's going on in the NBA, guys. I apologize that it's such a short thing, but unfortunately there's not too much else going on in Miami. Literally no headlines outside of that for Miami, and as far as Orlando is concerned, again, they still have a lot to do to get their roster shored up and prepared for the season as it gets ready to start within a couple of months. I look forward to seeing again what both these teams do in the meantime, between time, but I do not have a lot of information to share. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next bit of the show, which is some more sad news. Guys, don't get it twisted. Usually the news is great coming out of Florida. Just not this week. Unfortunately for the Florida Gators, which this is the only bit of news coming out of college football that's been a big deal, at least for the 3 big schools, is that top transfer or portal transfer target for the Florida Gators, who signed with Florida a few months ago. His name is Keontae Goodwin. I want to make sure I pronounce that name correctly because it's a very different name. I haven't quite seen that name before. However, he is our top former 5-star prospect offensive lineman transfer. Again, it just happened a few months ago. He is out of Florida. He is out of the University of Florida due to it was family hardship issues, and they were given a waiver for that. It is always tragic to hear that kind of news coming out of a promising recruit. Again, he was a former 5-star prospect, and the Gators were going to need as much help on that offensive line, especially after last season. For those of you who watched any of the Gators play last season, you guys saw us with the most talented quarterback in the entire NCAA last year. Unfortunately, he had next to no help all season long. The defense outperformed the offense, and the defense didn't perform very well last year to begin with. Here's hoping that changes for the University of Florida, but it's not taking off on the right foot when you lose your former 5-star prospect and offensive lineman at that. Had it been something like a defensive back or perhaps a running back, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but it's offensive line, one of the most important pieces and keys to victory in college football. And yeah, so that's another big hit for Florida. Unfortunately, that's the only bit of news coming out of Florida. Once good news hits again, we'll be able to bring that back. Of course, I shared with you guys last week the recruiting pools and what they look like with all three, actually, of the Florida State Seminoles, the Florida Gators, and the Miami Hurricanes, all doing very well in their recruiting pools, with Miami ranking the highest. If you guys didn't catch that information, last show has that information. I encourage you to go back and check it out. But as we move forward into this season for college football, it's going to be very interesting to see how these three teams fare because, as I mentioned before, Florida State performed the best last year, but they have the least amount of recruiting going on, with Florida and Miami both sitting inside the top 15 right now, with, again, Miami sitting at 7 and Florida sitting at 13. It is going to be very, very interesting to see the scope of things as we get closer, an inch closer to this college football season, which I can't wait for, guys. So let's go ahead and get into our second break of the evening. When we get back, we're going to go ahead and talk about the cards of what to expect on the card for tonight's AEW Collision, which is going to be starting at 8 p.m. So get ready for that, guys. We're only about an hour and change away, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about what happened in the main event of the UFC Fight Night with Tom Aspinall's return after his very scary injury to his knee late last year. Keep it locked here, guys. We'll be back in a few moments. Again, my name is Corey Pujols. As always, I am your host for Palm Tree Sports, which is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Now that's a guy that knows what he's doing. Mr. Taryn Rodriguez, welcome to the show, my man. I'm glad to have you here. And if you're on the other side of the bay, that's going to be the guy you're going to be looking out for, especially to pay attention to his show. He covers everything, guys. So be prepared for that. But here on this side of the United States, the East Coast, baby, we got a few more things to talk about, and we got another sponsor message again to talk about later at the end of the show. And like I said, we'll get to that after we finish what's going on in the world of sports coming out of Florida. And that is where the show comes in at. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, which is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, we have a collision card tonight. For those of you who watch pro wrestling, it's going to be starting at 8 p.m. The main event is going to be FTR versus Bullet Club Gold. I believe it's for the tag titles. I would need to go back and double check on that to be sure. But for those of you who are looking forward to that match, it should be a promising match, as last week's match was probably the best match of the night. And hopefully they can mimic that again. But if that's not your thing, or those two teams aren't your favorites, don't worry. We got another title match tonight as well in the co-main event. It's going to be the House of Black defending against the Acclaim and Daddy Ass. For those of you who are Acclaim fans, I am one such person. I am looking forward to this match, and I am hoping that they're able to dethrone the House of Black. The House of Black has been on a massive tear ever since they won the trios titles. It's not quite tag, but you get what I mean. They are tag titles, but it's more focused on the trios part, where it's actually 3 men instead of 2. So if you watch WWE growing up your whole life, you've never seen that kind of thing. And it was new to me when AEW came out, because that was something that they do also in IWGP in Japan, that trios titles became big in, and also Ring of Honor Wrestling. So guys, if you're looking out for that, that is what to expect for tonight on the main event and co-main event for Collision's card. Again, that's starting at 8 p.m. is I believe a 2-hour show. So guys, check it out. There are obviously going to be other, matches throughout the night, but those are the 2 highlighted matches. Those are definitely going to be the 2 most important and ones to look out for. Last week we saw the end of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, my apologies, which saw one Ricky Starks beat CM Punk in the main event, while also a slight nod at him turning heel. So be prepared for Pretty Ricky to go heel anytime, any moment now. Could take place tonight. We'll see what happens. Keep your eyes open for that situation. Now, as far as the main event goes with FTR versus Bullet Club Gold, if I remember correctly, last week Bullet Club Gold actually took that win. No surprise, they were going to set up for a good story anyway, so be prepared for both of those tag matches tonight in your main event and co-main event for the Collision card. And then for those of you who are more focused on the real aspect of combat sports, which would be martial arts, the UFC held a fight night, which just ended about 30 minutes ago. The main event was one Tom Aspinall versus one Marcin Tybura. It's so good to see Tom Aspinall back. For those of you who are not familiar with the mixed martial arts side of things, Tom Aspinall is a very promising and young heavyweight. Very agile, great boxing, great head movement, and a great record, may I add, at 12-3. Unfortunately, we saw his last fight end due to an injury sustained after an engagement in the fight against Curtis Blades. Unfortunately, that saw him lose some time in the octagon due to a strained MCL, I believe the injury was. So again, it's so great to see him back. Such a promising young prospect in the heavyweight division. Somebody with great boxing, was able to end the fight early in the first round. I believe it was 1 minute and 13 seconds is all it took. Less than 90 seconds to put away the veteran Marcin Tybura, who is sitting at a 24-7 record himself, and has also been in the octagon with some of the best fighters in the world. That should show you just how good, powerful, and agile Tom Aspinall is, and I look forward to seeing what happens next inside his UFC career, as he has no doubt put himself right back into the mix for a title shot. Now here's a quick update brought to you by my dad. Shout out, Dad. I love you, man. Thank you for all the help and the work that you send me throughout the week. But here's an update on that Rays game. Orioles get a run in. It's now 6-5, top of the 9th. All right, guys. So we're in the final inning. Let's see what happens if the Rays are able to close it out somehow and bring in, get the save or get the late victory, because it's going to come down to the bottom, no matter what happens here in the top. So that's what's going on there. In the co-main event, I unfortunately wasn't able to get the name, but Molly, I can't remember her name. They're at the O2 Arena out there in Great Britain, or in London, I should say. You say Great Britain like it's like it's so old, but you get what I mean, guys. The co-main event ended in a first-round submission due to armbar, and it didn't look very good. So both main event and co-main event ending in the first round is something that you don't see very often in mixed martial arts. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on ESPN Plus. It wasn't on TV, which normally the fight nights are on TV. So just a heads up for anybody who was looking out for it but didn't get a chance to see it. So that's what's going on there. And again, the world of pro wrestling, and then in the world of martial arts. Get ready, guys, because we have a nasty card coming up next. It's going to be UFC 291, which is going to feature Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier 2. Also, one Jan Blachowicz, my apologies, Polish Power there, guys, who is going to be taking on the former middleweight champion. And for those who do not know, Jan Blachowicz was actually the first person to beat Israel Adesanya in the UFC and in mixed martial arts, I believe it is. And he is also the former light heavyweight champion of the world. All right. He's going to be fighting Alex Pineda, who has a lifetime career record of 3-1 against Israel Adesanya. The other match is coming in kickboxing, and then one win here inside the UFC before losing to him in the greatest knockout possibly in middleweight UFC history. That's going to be a jaw-dropping fight. I really hope that they decide to make that fight for the vacant 205 title. For those of you who do not know, unfortunately, champion Jamal Hill had to relinquish his UFC 205 light heavyweight championship due to injury, which means I don't see two better people suited for a UFC light heavyweight championship bout. That fight is also going to be the co-main event of the Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2 matchup. Guys, this entire card is stacked. It might be the best card of the year, and it doesn't even have, quote-unquote, a title match on it. The first fight between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje ended in Dustin Poirier being able to win the boxing matchup and get a TKO victory over Justin Gaethje, showing us all that he is one bad MFer. Which leads me to remind you guys that that match is actually going to be for the BMF title. For those of you who remember that BMF title, it was won by Jorge Rivera. Okay? Or Jorge, my bad, I said Jorge Rivera. I'm so sorry, guys. Gambrin. Jesus Christ, I couldn't English for a second there, but he was the one who won that title originally, for those of you who remember, and he is also the one who, put that title back out there to be won again. It's not a recognized title by the UFC, but it does lead for a great story inside of the world of martial arts. This is going to be a promising card, so for those of you who are looking forward to that action, get ready for it. It's going to be an absolute banger, and that card is coming to you, I believe, again next week. That should be the 29th of July. Again, I look forward to seeing what happens here. I'm pulling for Dustin Poirier. Shh, don't tell anybody, because I know a lot of people love Justin Gaethje, but listen, I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan. The Diamond is absolutely one of the best boxers in the UFC, and I look forward to seeing what they put on as a show. And again, the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pineda, is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and it also builds for a great story, because should Israel Adesanya win his next upcoming title fight against Dricus du Plessis, we could see Izzy try to go back up to 205 again and become a dual champ inside the UFC. So that is what's going on there, guys. Look forward to that match coming up next week inside the UFC. Again, that's going to be 291, and Fight Night just wrapped up here, like I said, about an hour ago now, as we get closer to 7 o'clock. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap things up. But as I mentioned before earlier in the show, we do have a sponsor message. So bear with me, guys. I will be reading this, but I want to get this across. So guys, just bear with me again. This sponsor message comes in as follows. Okay. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League Championship Lake Elsinore Storm Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. Alright, so San Diego, stand up, guys. This is for y'all. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. You guys know what that means. If you're going to be eating something on the field, this is going to be something key for you guys, okay? This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. On a limited time, or for a limited time, I should say, you can win 4 tickets to see the Storm or 4 bags of jerky. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order, follow Planet Jerky, which is at Planet Jerky on Twitter, and DM them that you brought their jerky, okay? From hearing this ad, you will then be entered in a raffle that ends on Tuesday, August 1st. So that's 2 weeks, guys. Be prepared for it. It's actually more like a week and a half, but it's close, it's closer than you think. So be prepared for that if you're going to do this. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole nother planet. And for IE Sports Radio, for the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports in cities around the country. Like us, guys, Palm Tree Sports Radio, alright? Now, with that being said, make sure to follow us on at IE Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest sports and our shows. I actually searched us on TikTok, and our shows are on there, guys. It's so cool. It's not the biggest deal, but this is something that I love to do, so it's so cool to see it on platforms that I use for other things, such as my gaming videos. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about, IE Sports Radio and shine a light on what we've been doing for the last 9 years, as it is a huge blessing to be a part of it. So also check out our daily updates on our website. That is iesportsradio.com for all the sports news and IE Sports Radio blog. The Hall of Fame my apologies. IE Sports Hall of Fame, that is. The Fans of the Month, which is that's a monthly update, so guys, go on there to check it out, especially if you won. Go see your name, go see, if you have an image up there, the whole 9 yards, okay? The IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, the Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, including Palm Tree Sports Radio, and out IE Sports Radio Community Forum. Stop in, check out the merch, guys. We got t-shirts, muscle shirts, hoodies, hats. If you're interested in getting any of that swag, it is on the website. I know we don't say swag anymore, but it was the first adjective that came to mind. I hope you guys don't mind. Don't cancel me, guys. Don't cancel me. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, I do apologize for the cutting in and out, but I want to dress it up a little bit, give you guys my take and feel on it as well. I've mentioned this before. It's a huge blessing to be a part of IE Sports Radio. It's something, as you guys can tell, I'm still getting better at, and of course the weather isn't helping, but I'm not going to skip out on the show just because I'm a little stuffed up, if you guys get what I mean. I love doing this. I love talking to you guys every week about what's going on in the world of sports. This is actually something I do typically with my dad. Every week we get on the phone and we talk about what's going on. So it's just a blessing to be able to talk to you guys about it, especially here on this podcast. I absolutely love what I do here. I thank Larry and Taryn for being able to hook me up every week with the ability to do so, and I look forward to bringing you guys more content, especially as we get closer to college football and NFL football, which will help broaden our show, or re-broaden our show, because as you guys may remember, we used to have a lot to talk about, but you know how it is in the offseason, guys. The stories die down a little bit, so just hang in there. We'll be here same time, same place next week, 6 p.m. every Saturday evening, coming to you hot with what's going on here in the world of sports. We've had some good things to talk about, some bad things to talk about, but guess what? There's always something, all right? So keep it locked here every week for the updates coming out of Florida. Also, with a little bit of what to watch, what's going on tomorrow will be the Rays game, again, to wrap up the series against the Orioles. That game, again, will be at 1:40 p.m. That'll be lunchtime. So if you find yourself looking for something to watch at that time, there you go. And then, of course, tonight, we already had the UFC Fight Night wrap up with Tom Aspinall's victorious return to the Octagon, and then the AEW Collision card headed by FTR versus Bullet Club Gold for the tag championships. So guys, it has been a pleasure again to talk to you guys. It is Saturday afternoon, wherever you're at, whatever your time frame is, we're about to get it locked in for this AEW card, and I look forward again to seeing you guys same place, same time next week. If you want to reach me, I am on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. If you search my name, Corey Pujols, I should pop up on all three. I am at Corey Pujols on both TikTok and in Twitter. On Instagram, if you search my name, it'll pop up there too as well. I'm always talking sports. I always have an opinion on something, whether it be good or bad. We'll see what happens, moving forward as far as the situations with both the Jaguars and, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers goes. So I'll be back to you guys with updates next week. Thank you for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.